Good morning and welcome to Talking About Cross Stitch with me. I am Karen and I am the Stitching Owl, and I'm hoping that in a world of chaos and dissatisfaction that we can spend a bit of time together talking about stitching and forgetting about some of the stuff that we really wish was not happening. We are so blessed to have this community where we have friends from all over the world who can support each other and care for each other as we find our way through troublesome times. If this is your first time visiting, welcome. I'm so glad you pressed play and that you're wanting to take a peek at what I'm doing. I hope you'll stay for a while and that you will see something you like and perhaps press the subscribe and the like button. For those of you who have returned, you are my faithful friends who comment, share, send pictures, and in general make my life so much better. So thank you for being you and welcome to everyone. For those of you who like a moment talking about the weather, it's very cold here in Ontario. We've had the edge of the storm that caused some issues in the States. And so we did get some snow. It was all the what I call icing sugar snow. So it was soft and somewhat fluffy, not very good for making snowmen. But it did end up providing moments of iciness for the driving, which of course meant there was accidents and one thing and another. As luck would have it, I was able to get back and forth to my mother's without any incidents. And I do know that my husband did go running last night, but there has been some canceled runs in order to safeguard the general breathing health of the runners as well as the footing, because slippery, bumpy is not a pleasant thing to be dealing with, especially when you run after dark. So I know that many of you have had cold and snowy as well. Some of you are more in the Texas and Florida area and are finding yourself a little bit more cozy with nicer temps, but it's been even slippery where you are, I know, because I've been chatting with Amy. I am very pleased to say that I did do a Send a Smile a couple of weeks ago, but I was hesitant to actually mention it because I have to admit that I was a little cautious with regards to having faith in the fact that the package that I was sending to Kenzie of Mutt Puppy Stitchery was going through both Canada Post and the United States Parcel Post. And so even though I added tracking, I must admit, I have never had so much relief as when I received the text that it came and she loved it. So I would love for you to visit the latest Mud Puppy video so that you can see what she's been working on lately and can see at the end that she has beautifully ironed the 3 models that I sent her that were all folded up and probably quite a wrinkled mess by the time they got to her. So I'm very, very pleased that she is happy with what I sent her. Now, do I have any fully finished objects? And the answer to that is I have 2. Another one almost done, but I'm going to have to save it for the next time, unfortunately. But that's okay. We can start February with an FFO. So the first one is actually a stitch by my daughter, and it is a Tiny Modernist. Tiny Modernist has a book about the home that is available on Amazon as well as from her directly when she is visiting retreats and things like that. So my daughter did a marvelous job and was stitching, in this case, on a 14 count Aida with 2 strands of DMC. And I have made this so that she can hang it on her door. for those months where we don't quite have something ready for a season. And occasionally we have something that it's like, what season will we say it is? So it is stiff with comic book board in it. I have put a little bit of rainbow rickrack at the top and the bottom. I asked her if she wanted me to add it to the sides, and she said, no, I like it as is. And then, of course, on the back, I covered up all my lacing with a piece of felt. And I don't know if you can see, I have, oh, you can barely see that I did blanket stitch it on. So this is one that she finished sometime last year, and I decided I just needed to dive into getting something FFO'd every single week. And my other FFO is my gray-viewed, not so much a biscornu. Now, it actually doesn't look so much different because a biscornu is essentially a pincushion, and that's what I made out of it. So this was where I had forgotten to cut out the fabric on the back and could no longer even find in my stash which fabric I had used. So in here, this particular design is by KEB Creations and was part of the Halloween Ornaments Just Cross Stitch. Karen has done very well at getting her patterns into the Just Cross Stitch lately. And it was done initially with 2 colors. So the white, although she had it done in the glow in the dark stuff. And I find it a little bit, oh, I don't know. I find it hard to work with. I have to be honest. It tends to make knots and all sorts of things for me. So I use B5200. This, of course, is your 310. And then the crosses on the coffins I have done in red, and that red is also used for the eyes of the spiders. And on the back, I have some Halloween fabric. And then I scavenged in the many buttons that I have received from my mother, and I put a button right in the middle so that it would poof that up very nicely. And I've got just your basic fiber fill inside of this. But it works very well as a pin cushion. So that is my 2 FFOs for the end of January. Can you believe we're here already? Wow. And it is, of course, 2026. Now, do I have any FOs? Well, I'm going to start with my daughter again. For her birthday last year, yes, I gave her Catitudes, which is one of, oh my goodness, Emma. The name will go across the top here because I've blanked out. It's a marvelous book, just full of funny little isms that only cat owners can really relate to. And this is one that she popped together over the Christmas break. I'm not always sarcastic. Sometimes I'm asleep. So this is a 16 count opalescent that I got from Hand Dyed by Rolanda. And we were just using my non-labeled floss because I could get the different shadings quite nicely to match what Emma Congdon, there we go, Emma Congdon had chosen for her pattern. Now, Emma doesn't usually put a title on her patterns. We, of course, are refusing, we are calling this Sarcastic. So that is a finish by my lovely daughter. One more finish by my daughter. Yes, every time she comes, she seems to have something to show me. This is another Tiny Modernist. I believe I got it in September when I went to the Peel Stitch-In. And it, of course, is the Crow on Pumpkin. And I will fully finish this. I'm not sure how, whether I'll make it into a little pillow, which would be kind of a larger pillow because this is again on 14 count, or whether I'll make it into some sort of ornament. But it didn't take her long to do this one either. And now going to my own finishes, I finished my Lucky Leprechaun dance here. And this is part of the 2023 St. Patrick's Day ebook that I got from Twin Peaks Primitives as a downloadable. And yes, if you actually have this pattern, you realize that yet again, I left out some words at the bottom. And this one had ladybugs on it that I agree have to do with lucky, but I'm not so convinced they're part of Ireland's folklore. If you're Irish, let me know. So I stopped here. So there was supposed to be a ladybug up here, ladybug down here, and some words. So lots of four-leaf clovers. And again, this was my pulling from my random, not so labeled sets of floss and matching it to the given. So I'm just going to hold it closer. And yes, indeed, the original fellow leprechaun does not have eyes. I'm guessing that the eyes are covered by that marvelous top hat. Now that is not my only finish. I have also finished this, which is Quebec Seasons by Pigeon Coop Designs. This has 14 DMC colors and 1,521 total stitches. It's on a 20 count white Aida, and it is a full coverage piece on point. And I have to say, it looks really good in the camera because I finished it this morning when I got up. I needed to go around twice and then put in a few. There are a few spring flowers down in here that don't show up very well, but there's a little bit of pink in here. I love the waves on the stream and the way he figured out how to do the sky so that you got the impression of a rising sun. So as always, I do love a good Pigeon Coop design. And I will say, of course, as everybody's saying, have you put in your pre-order for his latest book on Amazon that is featuring, yes, you guessed it, some ocean and sea ideas. There's a beautiful picture of a whale breaching on the front. I think it's an orca. Can't wait to see all of the patterns. And then my other finish is my February sheep calendar. So you saw January earlier this month. And I really like that the male has the horns, the ram. We've got a tulip here. We've got our little markings on our sheep. Now I'm going to say that that February shows up a little bit better in person than it is on here. But I think in the future, the pattern actually shows the months half in a light and half in a dark. And I think I'm going to just do the whole thing in a dark. I started to put in the dark on the bottom half and I didn't like it at all. It was messing with what I thought. I just couldn't read the word at all. At least with the light in person, I can read the word. Sort of akin to Laura saying that when it's variegated floss and its words, she finds it confusing to the eye for reading. So I'll be doing my months in a bit of a darker these are not DMC. This has been done in sulky. Now I had a question about sulky thread. And yes, I stitch with sulky often on 16 and 18. This is an 18 count Aida that was dyed in front of me by Karen D. Thank you, Karen. And I've got a big enough piece that I can do hopefully all of the months on this particular, we used an aqua dye that was a RIT dye. The difference between sulky and your regular floss is that it is a twisted thread floss, which means it is round and dimensional. and is much more similar to like a pearl cotton, especially if you had like a 10 pearl cotton. This is a 12 weight, so it works very nicely on the 16, 18. I do personally find it a bit thick on the 20, but others find it fine on the 20. So this is just a personal preference. No, you do not separate any strands. It comes off of a spool and you use it. The Wonderfill has a wonderful array of colors now as well that actually are exactly the same 12 weight thickness, and you can supplement sulky with. So yes, I do use sulky threads frequently. So there are my finished objects for the moment. And all of a sudden, there we go. Okay, so now where are we going? Well, let's see what it was that I got up to with regards to the stitching. And I have to admit that I have been enjoying being part of Whip Warriors, and that a couple of weekends before, so a weekend before my last video, I did Whip Frenzy and went through all of my whips, and I was like, oh, this is so much fun. So I did it again the following weekend. And essentially, all of my whips have at least 300 additional stitches, so you're gonna see everything again. So let's dive in. Just before I do that, I want to do a shout out for the Stitch List. So Jackie is from Massachusetts and loves crafting of all kinds. She loves to embrace that full coverage pattern and has jumped into the Pain-Free Crafts portals. Yes, that huge one that has so many stitches. And she is planning this year alone to add 50,000 stitches to that particular project. Now she's using Canva to help to track her progress and to make her plans. And I think you would enjoy getting to know her a little bit better. I'm just going to remind you that in my description box below, I have a lovely set of Flosstube friends who are people that I text with, stitch with, and have just gotten to know on a regular basis. And I will often refer to them by first name. Please, I do hope that you check out every one of their channels if you have not already, and I suspect you have. Now, there is going to be a number of new starts here. Yes, indeed. And this is my first one. It's called Garden of Quilts by Lori Holt, and it is sold on the Fat Quarter Shop website either as a PDF or as a hard copy. There are 16 DMC colors, and I'm stitching on a 20 count Aida called London Fog that is a Roxy Flossco. Now I am I just printed out the pattern. I got the PDF, but I just decided this would be a good one to be able to carry around when I was waiting for appointments with my mother. I am stitching this one with Sarah, the Stitchin' Mommy. She started it during Bringo in January. So Garden of Quilts has flowers that all are takeoffs on quilt patterns, and then the pots are all these different kinds of spools of floss. So you can see I've started on to the next one. So I'm not in a great hurry to get this one done. I probably will aim to do like one flower each 2-week period, and we'll just see where that goes. Interestingly enough, this is 957 stitches. I don't have a percentage because of it being paper, but I found that quite interesting to see how many stitches were in here. But this is a 20 count, and that's why when I put up like my hand, you can see it's actually not that big. Now the actual picture shown, we'll have Garden of Quilts in words across here. Will you be surprised if I say I'm not doing that? I'm going to take that out. There is a border here and a border down a bit that actually matches. So I'm just going to do the border one time and then go into the flowers at the bottom. So mine will not be quite as high. This is long, and so it's long and narrow. The one thing I will say is I could also see just sort of stopping there and making that into an ornament with regards to doing smalls for smalls exchanges at retreats, or for making gifts for friends that stitch. These actually work out quite well, and you could pick whichever flowers and you could change the colors to whatever you wanted. So that is Garden of Quilts by Lori Holt. One of the things that Amy is doing is combing through her quote-unquote vintage magazines, and in this 2026 year, on the 26th of each month, love how she connected the dots with that, that she's going to do a magazine stitch. And I thought, you know, my magazines are not always back to the 1980s and 90s, but I do want to embrace doing magazine stitching. So I am diving in and starting a new stitch on the 26th, and indeed did stitch with Amy on the 26th. Now, what I am doing is I've got a filing cabinet full of my stitching and quilting magazines. And so I'm reaching into the stitching area and pulling out a magazine, and then I will go through it. If there's absolutely no patterns that I can feel that I will do, I am going to give away the magazine. There is absolutely no reason to keep it. However, this particular magazine had multiple things for me to do, including some with sheep. Oh my goodness. But what I decided to do, when I got to this page, I went, oh, this is what I've got to start, even though it's not small. It's smallish. So look at those. So these are Fairy Gardens, and yes, they are small Carolyn Mannings. So they're not full coverage. And you can look at this and say, well, I could do this on a different color with a different set of colors of floss, and it would be very true. But aren't they gorgeous? I actually think I want to do all three of these. For right now, I decided I was going to work on this middle one. So this isn't that a beautiful cross? And hang on. Birds. So this is an Elizabeth Spurlock design from Crosswing Collections, and they do birds very well, but there's more in here. There's actually 6 or 7 that I want to stitch out of this. So it was a good pull. So I have to decide whether I'm pulling a new magazine next month or if I will just go on and do another one out of here. You'll have to stay tuned to figure out what I'm going to do, because I don't know yet either. So Fairy Garden number 2, I'm using 2 strands of DMC, which is a little unusual for me. It's on an unknown linen that Karen D gave me when it didn't quite work for her eyes. And this is how far I've gotten. Now, I ended up brightening the colors a bit. So this here is 292 stitches, and it is 12.97%, because I do find magazine patterns hard to look at the pattern and then come back here. The back and forth for my eyes is just a bit confusing, so I did take the time to put it into Pattern Keeper. And to be honest, each quarter is the same, just slanted another direction, so it wasn't that hard to put in. Didn't take me long at all. So yes, that was a start as well. Now, I have been working on Pretty Pumpkins by Owl Forest Embroidery, which is part of the hashtag Pumpkin Birthday Sal for Laura. It has 7 colors. I'm not using DMC, I'm using whatever is close. And I am stitching on 25 count pewter even weave. So what you'll notice this time is the edge of this leaf is completely done. This pumpkin and vine are in, and there is more of this gourd in. So this one, if you do the whole thing, is 3,569 stitches, and would say that I'm at 52%. The thing is, I don't know how much more of it I'm going to put in. I'm going to see what's going to make sense and what I'll add or subtract in order to make a logical, probably ornament or flat finish. Not sure exactly. But it's a nice fall thing. I am trying to keep at the patterns that were carried from 2025 to 2026. And so you are going to be seeing a mix of a whole bunch of different seasons for sure. Speaking of a mix of seasons, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to Christmas. And this is Skating Santa by Love Poppett Designs. I'm stitching on 25 count opalescent azure even weave, and I'm stitching this with Laura and Mary. Laura is still stitching along beside me, and Mary is finished. Now, I use this in the Whip Warriors birthday salve for something seasonal because you skate in winter and Santa is Christmas. So this is how far I got it, which is actually significantly farther than the last time. So we have a hat, we have a face and a fuller beard. We do have the faux fur at the bottom of his jacket and the beginning of the leg that will be skating. Now my challenge here is that this whole pattern, only the first page went into Pattern Keeper, not the second page for me, because Pattern Keeper's weird in this house. So when I come to this spot over here, these stitches right here are actually, I'm just doing it off of the digital PDF, not off of the digital. So I know I'm over 50%, but I don't know by how much. But I'm really pleased, and honestly, so many different reds and like the patterns of little blocks, so to say, of the different reds in his hat. They're absolutely adorable. Now, again, there's supposed to be a Christmas tree over here. I'm not sure I'm going to do the Christmas tree. I'm really wanting to do the Santa. So, as I say, I know I'm over 50% and I'm having fun. And that, after all, is the main thing. I'm still having fun stitching Christmas. Now, another start this month, well, let's do this, is Tropical Birds, Flamingo by Puntini. And it's a set of 3, so it's a Tropical Bird trio. Puntini has a whole bunch of, like, they've got Arctic Animals trio, Ocean Animals trio, Winter, Fall Animals, and I noticed that they're releasing more of these in March. So I have started on the Flamingo. I'm using, again, London Fog 20 count because light colors show up. We've got 10 DMC colors, and there is 1,875 stitches in total. So I've got the start of the flamingo. You can identify him as a flamingo, and he's in this wreath that is going to have leaves and flowers. Right now, it looks more like a wreath of thorns, but I wanted to get all of that color done first and zero it out, and then I'll go back and I will add more of the other colors. So right here, you have 1,060 stitches, and that makes this 56.53%. So I am already over halfway done. So I have wanted to do these animals by Puntini for quite some time. I have like 4 different patterns, which means I've got 12 animals, and this is the first you're seeing. So lots more Puntini in your future, I promise. Let's make sure that I did the one on the back. Yes, I did. My next one, I am stitching with Mary of Mary Stitching Corner. We decided that we were going to stitch winter in winter. So I actually have something that's the right season. So this is called Seasonal Circle, and it's by Little Dove Designs on Etsy. The pattern is 140 by 140 and has 11 DMC colors. The total amount of stitches is 7,473 in my pattern keeper, but I must say that it went in a little bit weird, and I don't know whether that number is accurate. I am doing this on a 20 count boot cut by Roxy Floss Co. So last time you had this amount, so I added more snow and trees, and I am thrilled that this circle matched up without having any issues. And now I start working on putting in the snow here and the fence. And then once this part is done, I'll go around the outside and do the wreath part. Now I'll say that it is possible for people wanting to do ornaments to actually just do this center part. So I love it when you've got options with the patterns. Now they have all 4 seasons of these, but Little Dove also has seasonal hearts where all 4 seasons plus Halloween plus Christmas, you're going to be seeing some of those. And I know Mary has already started some, so more stitch alongs to come. Okay, so that again is 20 count. There. And my next one is Shack on the Shore by Flossabilities. So I did put this one through both of the weekends of the Whip Frenzy, but then I ended up doing a whole bunch of starts, so I don't have as many stitches in here as I wanted, but I definitely have more than 300. And again, I am stitching this with Leigh, Mary, and Laura. And of course, Leigh is already finished hers. I'm doing this on a 20 count Aida that's called Cornflower and is a fiber on the whim. So what you're seeing now is, so I had to hear the last time. So we've got a little sandcastle, the beginning of a shorter palm tree, and we've got the sand starting here. So I am making progress. I would like to pull it out more often, but I am loving having lots of whips again. So this is 2,340 stitches for 29.32%. Now, I am likely not going to be doing the border, so it's probably more like 34, 35%, but I will let you know when I actually color that as finished, what the actual percentage is. I tend to just build my patterns as I go in and see when it feels like it's right to stop. Now my next one is called Flosstube Friends by October House Fiber Arts. It has 23 DMC colors. However, this is part of a round robin that I've got going with Sheila of Mrs. Stitches, Lisa of Forest City Stitching, Darlene of Darlene Dion Designs, Sarah of the Rocking Chair Stitcher, and Kathy of Kathy's Quilts and Stitching. So, and I'm inviting everybody to just, when they get mine in particular, whatever's your favorite color, that's what I want you to do for the dress on your person. And whatever hair color you have, do the hair color that way. And in that way, it becomes very personal. And I've actually said, don't worry about whether it goes with the person next to you. When you're at a party, you're not worried about whether your dress fits with the other people that walk in. So we're just going to consider this a Flosstube party. And I made great progress here. Let's see. If I do this, I've got all the way out to here. So I'm trying to get across the bottom. I do have the arms in here. They're just quite pale because, yes, you guessed it, I'm pale. I need to put in legs and feet here, and then under the feet, I will be putting my own initials. So this is actually a very straightforward stitch. Like, this dress is actually quite large because otherwise we wouldn't be already to 2,000 stitches. But it's not hard at all. So this is 2,449 stitches for 19.44%. I will be considering this a finish for now. When I finish this girl, put in the initials and then complete the border. And I'm estimating that will be in the neighborhood of 2,600 to 2,700 stitches. Our hope is to take 3 months to do this and then to trade around. But some flexibility is fine with this because we'll just make it work for us. And thank you to CJ for giving me that lovely, lovely pattern. Now we are to Elegant Lace by Arlene Cohen, who is the designer behind Works by ABC. I am doing the Sal with Sheila and CJ of the Sunshine Stitchers. They're doing this as a 13-month Sal, starting it partway into December and finishing it. So they started in December of 2025, and they'll finish it in December of 2026. Now, CJ has divided up the pattern into 12 logical segments, and guess what? I'm not doing the segments like she said at all, but she's okay with that. Have no fear. So I did a center start because this is like a doily. So overall, there will be like 19,000 stitches here, but 9,735 are full X's and 9,634 will be half crosses. Now I'm stitching on a 36 count honeybee even weave, which is a hand dyed by Rolanda. And I got all the way around 2 more times since the last time we were together. So you saw me on this inner one, so I went all the way around once, and then the next time I went around, I had these leaves to add in. So now, the next time I've got motifs out here, and so the debate is this going to be monochromatic? Am I adding color? You'll have to come back to find out what that answer is because I have no clue. As of today, this is 1,353 stitches for 6.99%. And this pattern, I'm actually using Markup RXP. And for whatever reason, Pattern Keeper was not a fan. But Markup RXP, it went into perfectly. So, yep, that's pretty cool. And I've got hair in my mouth. Now, I've got exciting progress on the next one. So excited. So I have been working on that Color Wheel Bouquet. It's also a Works by ABC Arlene Cohen design. And I've been doing this with in-person friends. In-person with CJ and online Tuesday Stitcher Heather. And so I added a few more flowers and then I decided, oh, you know what? I think I need to make sure that the border is going to match up because I don't normally actually stitch the borders, but in this one, the fan is a border. It matched. Look at that. So I've got all of the fan in already. These are finished. This one I need to put in all of the 501 for the center here and the leaves here. And then that leaves me 4 more to finish this one. So I'm predicting that this will be a February finish of some sort. And you are going to be hearing me say more often in 2026, I'm doing this for me. This is the first one that I'm doing for me. My sheep, I'm doing that for me, but they're small. This is very fun. It's an easy stitch, because what I do is I find out what the color is for this blade, and that color is used here, here, and in this little mandala in the middle, and then it's zeroed out, so you can put it back in your master collection. Now, if I did this again, I am fine with this color of fabric, but I'm thinking a white, it could be V5200, or I think it's 2756, which is a white with a slightly blue undertone. And I think that it would look good with that around it as well. And I'm debating whether I would put a bead in the center of each of those flowers. There's so many options here. It is fun and it is not time consuming. It goes quickly. And I've got both sides of that guy done. So I'm really excited about that one. And now for another start. I know you're thinking, wow, that's a lot of starts. Yep, it was, but I'm having so much fun. And is that not what this is about? What I discovered the first time, the week that we did a whip frenzy, I didn't feel that I had enough whips. And part of whip frenzy is that you have to have a minimum of 200 stitches in it in order to count it as a whip. So I had to start stuff and get at least 200 stitches into it, and you know, all the rest of it. So the next thing is a Cozy Swamp Sampler by Nathnalu. This is being stitched on 32 count Lugana, Vintage Atlantic. We've heard of the Vintage Country Mocha, and there's also Vintage Shell, and this is Vintage Atlantic. Look at those frogs. Are they not adorable? So there's only 6 colors of sulky. This is a 32 count even weave. Right at the moment, my LNS seems to only have 28 count of these vintage fabrics, and I really prefer them to be 32 when I'm doing this, so I'll have to wait that one out. There's 2,766 total stitches in this, and I do think I'm going to do all of the stitches. There will be dragonflies and lily pads and all sorts of things. This is the very center. So this is 716 stitches for 25.89%. And I'm using 1 strand of sulky 12 weight thread. So this again is the twisted thread. So I'm excited to actually do dragonfly here, dragonfly there. Now their dragonflies are a blue that melts right into my choice of fabric. So I'm going to be doing those dragonflies in mauves instead of blues so that they show up that little bit. And I have seen mauvish dragonflies without any issue. Now my next one, okay. My next one is Cute Christmas Owl by Stitches So Beautiful. This was a free pattern during Advent. And I'm stitching this with Sarah the Stitchin' Mommy. It's got 92 colors of DMC, which is a fair amount for something that is just 137 by 123 and only 12,736 total stitches. I do want to get the owl done in a 1-year period. So in order to be able to FFO it, to have it ready for December, I figure I need to do 1,300 to 1,400 stitches per month. Now this is the one that I am stitching on Hardanger, and I've had questions about Hardanger that I think I'm going to do in a separate video so that this doesn't become the length of a full-length movie. Now, this is where I've got my owl. Last time you had 1 eye, this time you've got 2 eyes. I'm using 1 strand of called for DMC, and right now this is 1,595 stitches for 12.52%. So I've gone over the 1,400. So even if I don't touch this for the rest of January, which is only 2 days, I am satisfied with what I got done this month. And it is possible that as it fades out towards the outside, because I've done this on such a light color, I think this is a dove gray. that I might not do all of the white stitches because they might not show up. Now, before I leave this one, I want to talk to you about the fact that this is my Threadwalker Saga project. And so Steph of Wild Fox Stitchery has a wonderful story for the Wild Fox, for the Threadwalker Saga, where we're supposed to pick a character and then work through a series of challenges. Now, I have not gone to the trouble of creating a visual for my character, but I do love naming things. It was one of my favorite things about being a composer was I got to name things constantly. So the name of my character is Lyrica, who is a stitch bard. Now I'm going to put this down so I can show you. So this is one of the sheets that we downloaded. Steph has a Facebook group, but she's very kind in that if you reach out to her and say your Facebook isn't working or you don't believe in Facebook, she will just send it to your email. So her description of a stitch bard is that stitch bards weave songs and stories through their threads. Charming, inspiring, and impossible to ignore, their projects are dramatic and full of color. What is a stitch bard's weakness? Easily distracted by new patterns and shiny threads. And oh, is that not true? How many starts did you see today already? So we've got different character areas we can be in. And I do think that I'm going to actually create yet another character for doing her program with another situation. But I wanted to actually have my cute Christmas owl get a full month in before I added somebody else into this. Now, this is the gaming sheet that you have. And I admit that I was misreading it because I was seeing these numbers on the side as being levels. And then I was chatting with Catherine, and she was like, I'm on level 19. And I said, how are you on level 19 if there's only 10 levels? So I left a message for Steph, and she got back to me just in a couple hours and said, oh, these numbers they're just different character stages that you're doing, but these actually are all levels. So I didn't show you this last time because I thought, well, I'm still on level 1. Well, no, I wasn't. Right now, I am on level 11 because I am right here. Each of these colored spots gives you a challenge, like you've met a monster or your thread has become tangled, and then you roll a dice, and depending on whether you get an odd or an even, you can add 100 stitches, subtract 50 stitches. She's got this all figured out beautifully. So my plan is, I think that I will be able to finish my cute Christmas owl here and actually go on to a different project, because once you get down to this level, every box is 1,000 stitches. So I don't think I've got enough stitches in my Christmas owl to actually complete this, but you know I have more full coverages up my sleeve. So I'm really, really pleased to be taking part in that particular game. And one last look at my Christmas owl. So the white around here has 7 or 8 colors of white and gray in it. So there's a fair amount of confetti in this little guy, but it's worth it. When you get those eyes in, it is so beautiful. And I have 2 10 by 10 boxes completely filled in here, and I almost have a third one. Okay, and now I'm going to show you my Quaker flag. So lots and lots of people started this flag. It's by Vivsters. Now, you started the flag for your own country or for pride. There's 48,382 stitches in this, and I am on a 36 count linen that is opalescent, and I'm using Sulky on this, and it is excellent coverage. So you can see, like when I put it up close, there is no white showing through that red or that gray. And so what I'm showing you is I finished all of this. So this, we're gonna have the band for the side of the Canadian flag over here. So I finished this whole thing wasn't there at all. I put in a bit more of this and I got started on this. So right now my Quaker flag is at 27,000. I'm going to lean it back. There we go. 27,039 stitches for 55.89%. So I'm actually quite excited by how this is going. I still will say I'm not sure that I will volunteer to do anything large on a linen again. Linen isn't, I make more errors when the threads of the fabric are not all uniform in width. And I'm not a fan of frogging stitches. Having said that, one of the advantages of the twisted threads is that if you have to frog, because like Quakers need to be precise, I find it comes out easier than the floss does, and that 9 times out of 10 I can just reuse the twisted thread that I just frogged. Not every time, but a lot of the times I can reuse it. So it is a little easier when it comes to the whoopses, in my opinion. And my last one, my full coverage, Under the Stars, Sweet Sheep by Counting the Stars on Etsy. This is a 174 by 224, so it's not huge. It's just a moderate size. So it's got 38,976 stitches, which is very modest. 50 colors of DMC, very modest. And I'm stitching it on 20 count Aida with 1 strand of called for DMC. And look at this. Is that not exciting? Like you can see the clouds forming in the sky. So I started this on January the 2nd. I am not aiming to put 500 stitches in a night, but I do try to get somewhere around 400. Since January the 2nd, I have gotten 11,782 stitches. So this is 30% done. And I did use this for the birthday sale for a full coverage. So I did 3 of the 4 categories. There was 4 moderators with January birthdays, so they opened up a new game for us. I've stitched a minimum of 500 stitches on a project, and then they gave us a prompt. And clearly in here I did more than 500. So I'm very, very excited by this. I'll be thrilled if I can get down to a sheep, but I'm not worried about it because there's so many colors of blue in here. And the depth of color, I'm just going to go in a bit. Is that not gorgeous? So here, this is all solid. I don't have any confetti stitches to put in, but once I get to this spot, what I'm doing is I'm going across with 2 of the colors that have a lot of stitches. And then when I get to a spot that when I look up, there's an empty space, I stop and I put in that confetti stitch. And in that way, I don't have a whole bunch of little blanks that might be interpreted as stars that I'm like, no, it's more blue. So I'm finding this one is a nice balance of block and confetti, and that it works very nicely for me. And that even though this was a slightly stiff 20 count Aida, now that I have worked on it for this month, and I haven't missed a day yet, it's softening up very nicely. And I have filled my reception chair full. So I'm going to give one more shout out today. Danelle of Sky Blue Stitcher is a retired crafter. I think she must have retired young because she does not look very old. She's got 2 videos out that I really enjoyed every word. She loves full coverage and does work towards actually finishing those full coverages. She's looking forward to joining our Tuesday Stitch-In onlines. and is using Pattern Keeper. And she's interesting because in a year where a lot of people are trying to get things done, she's trying to whip up. So if you want to see more starts, she's your lady. If I give you a few January stats at this point, I'm going to say I am doing the RPG challenge that has been set up by Michael. But we still have a couple more days of stitching, actually 3 because I'm recording this fairly early in the morning. So I'm not filling in the chart, the electronic chart that he's given me until I have all of my numbers in. But so far with January stats, I have touched 22 whips, but I have FO'd 7 of those 22. So that means I'm at 15 whips going into February. And I have 5 FFOs this month. I might end up with the 6th one before we finish the month. So you won't see it till in February, but if I finish it in January, I would count it on my chart for Michael. Michael was really generous in that he made a standalone video separate from the lovely Melanie to explain how to fill in the chart. That clarified things so nicely because Karen D had taken so much time with me one afternoon and I understood-ish. I thought, okay, I think I know where I'm going with this. And then when I watched his video, I was like, okay, between those two, excuse me, I truly know where I'm going. So I'm really excited just to see where this goes. Michael made a prolific stitcher chart for people that might be over 30,000 stitches a month, and I know I already am over 30,000 stitches this month. I'm just going to alert you that Canada Chats is Sunday at 2 o'clock. Stitch It Central has agreed to sponsor my Canada Chats again, but I don't have the codes, so Carmen, they're coming. I owe one prize for the January get-together. And the April get-together will be hosted by Lisa, so we won't have to miss just because we've got multiple things going on. And the beginning of May, I think for Canada Chats, we're going to have to push it off because the beginning of May, Lisa is at Stitch North and I am in Vancouver. So I think it'll have to go to the 2nd or 3rd week, or we'll figure it out. Oh, here comes the puppy. With regards to the Tuesday stitches, I'm just going to ask everybody to please, please, please check today's video below for the dates. I have been caught by dental appointments for my youngest kiddo that are fairly significant appointments, which requires mom to be close by. And as such, that means I won't be quite holding true to the every other week, the way I really like to keep it steady on. I know, for instance, this Tuesday cannot be a stitch together because I'm going to be at the dentist, but I'm not the one having the dental work done. Okay, now for my moment for music, I did it again that I'm using my own music one more time. And I'm not going to go for weeks on end with all my own music, but I knew that I was going to be a little long today because of how many patterns I had touched. This is another one of my books called Emotional Roller Coaster. And in this book, what I'm trying to do is to teach students how to communicate different emotions in the tone colors they create with their fingers. Is it a curved finger tone? Is it a flatter finger tone? Like, where do you go to create these different sounds? So in here today, I chose to play a piece called Yearning, which I have used with students as a grade 6 etude for the conservatory that is throughout Canada and the United States. It could be a grade 6 Lassie or an etude. And it is really about having the hands far enough apart that you can't really watch your left hand, but you have to keep it accurate, and you have to have a singing tone in the right hand, even though you're up higher, you're in ledger lines above the staff. So, and I always invite kids, like, what does yearning mean to you? And sometimes when you're yearning for something, you don't know yet whether it's going to come true. And my piece ends with this, we don't know yet. And I'm going to leave it to you now to listen and see what I mean by the ending isn't an ending. And here we are. It's time for us to say goodbye again. And I just need to say one more time how important you are to me. Each of you is a friend. When you leave a comment, you are communicating to me and my heart. And I truly appreciate every minute that you gift to me when you watch my videos. You are precious. Please always remember that. I do hope that as you watch today's video, that you had fabric, floss, and needle in hand, so that as you made something beautiful, you made yourself happy. I'll see you in a couple of weeks, and I promise you, not only will next week you see Karen D, I hope she gets better soon, she's not feeling great today, but we are planning a February Y2K. So we will let you know when that's going to be scheduled. And on the week when that is scheduled, it will actually replace one of our videos. But it will go up in the same sequence of events that it'll go live on a Friday around midnight for my time zone. Thank you so much. Stay warm. Bye-bye for now.